Okay, so first things first, I greet you in the greetings of peace. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
All right, so we're beginning here on this fifth day of April 2023, and we're going to be continuing with our study of the letter Meme, the Arabic M. You ready for all of this excitement, young man?
Yeah,
All right, how have you been? You good?
yeah.
All right. You know, I'm teaching some other children now, and they asked about you. They said, we've been watching MAHDI. I said, okay. Very good, very good. So I'll send your mother the video that they're mentioning you in. They were very excited about watching you learn. And I think they're about your same age also. Yeah, so I have about 3 or 4 other young people now that I'm teaching. You were the first. So you're doing Instructor Bilal a tremendous favor. You're bringing me clients. But don't look for a percentage. Do not look for a percentage. I'm messing with you. All right. Here we go. I'm going to bring up my notes. And we're going to get started here. All right. So let's get started. The letter Meme continued. This first page, or at least this first part of the page, you've read it already, but we're just going to reacquaint yourself and myself with how we started, okay? So the letter Meme continued. Go right ahead.
The letter meme refers to the movement in water, which produces waves.
Excellent. All right. Then we showed a picture of those waves, and you can see it pretty much looks like that Arabic glyph. That's the letter Meme, as you know, written in Arabic. And I'm pretty sure that they got it from studying the shape, the pattern of the wave in the ocean. All right. So whenever we see Meme, we want to think about that wave, the surfer's wave. Now I've added something here, which you can read.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The magnetism of the moon also produces waves in the waters on planet Earth.
All right. So we have waves on the earth, and very often those waves can be caused by the magnetism of the moon's pull on Earth's tides. So if you can see here, there's a picture of the moon on the right, and then it says gravitational force of the moon. The gravitational force of the moon is affecting the tides on Earth. And that's what also causes not these kinds of waves, but just your regular waves in your average ocean. The moon is very often responsible for doing that. Let's continue. We've been here before. This is the water cycle. I want you to repeat the 4 stages, beginning with evaporation, and then make your way upwards and then over and then back down. Tell me what they say.
Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection.
Very good. All right. We're not going to go into the details of that. We've done that in the past couple of videos. That's just a refresher for our audience to ponder. All right. But we're going to begin speaking about these stages, and we're going to go through these stages one by one to make certain comments about them. Today, we're going to be dealing mostly with evaporation. All right. So let's read this first.
Water plus movement equal energy.
Okay. Very good. Now, there's all kinds of energy. You know that there's electricity, that's energy. Magnetism is an energy. But when we're talking about water, once water is caused to move, then that movement itself creates energy. And I don't know if you know about the old steamships that used to run based on the energy from moving water. That became its motor, like the old steam engines, okay? So water plus movement equals energy. If you put a little rubber ducky or something in the bathtub and the water's not moving, the rubber ducky's not going anywhere. But if you take your hand in the bathtub water and you start swooshing, pushing the water, The rubber ducky or the little boat or whatever you have in there. Like I used to have a little boat when I used to take a bath when I was about 5 years old. And I'd push the water behind the boat or behind the little rubber ducky, and the rubber ducky would move. And I would see it as like, swimming in the water. It's my imagination, right? It's a piece of plastic. All right. But the point is that water plus movement equals energy. Then we began talking about the stages of the water cycle. So we're going to continue with that. I want you to read that once again.
There are many processes involved in the movement of water, apart from major steps given in the above water cycle diagram. Listed below are different stages of the water cycle.
Excellent. Then we're going to talk first and foremost about evaporation. Go for it.
The sun is the ultimate source of energy, and it powers most of the evaporation that occurs on Earth.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, from this point on, you're going to be reading my words. Now we're getting into the real part of the lesson, dealing with the sun, dealing with the soul, dealing with energy, and yada, yada, yada. But we're focusing mostly on the word soul. And you're going to see that soul is explained in at least 3 different ways. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
The Quran compares the soul to the sun. Even the Latin word for the sun is soul.
All right. Okay. So here is the verse in the Quran that is comparing the sun, which is called Ash-Shams. Can you say that?
Ash-Shams?
Yeah, that's the sun. And that's to be found in Surah 91, the first verse. 91:9. For those out there in listener land and viewer land who are looking at this and you want to follow along, get your Qurans and turn to Surah 91 and begin with the first verse. So I'm going to read this in Arabic, and then you'll read the English translation. Wa shamsi wa duhaha. Your turn.
By the sun in its glorious splendor.
Okay. So let me explain that. We all know what the sun is. And if you look at the picture here on the right, that's the sun, but you'll notice that there's light coming out off of the sun. You following me on that?
Yeah, light coming off it.
Yeah. You'll also notice that the rest of the sky that's closest to the sunrise is also beginning to show light. You got that? That's called duha. So it says, wa shamsi, meaning by the sun, wa and duhaha, its light or its glorious light. So there are 2 things happening here. There's the actual sun, and then there's the actual daylight that the sun is producing. And it produces so much daylight that can be so overwhelming in the environment of the sky that even if it's a cloudy day, you still know when the sun comes up, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you can't see the sun directly, how do you know the sun is up?
But you look up the clouds are, bright. You can see light.
Exactly. And can you see the things around you?
Yeah.
Can you see people around you still like every day, like you normally do without actually seeing the physical sun in the sky?
Yeah.
All right, great. This is what this is talking about. It's talking not only about the direct object that we're calling the sun, that the Quran calls al-Shams. Say that again, al-Shams.
Al-Shams.
Right. Okay, so we're not just talking about al-Shams. We're also talking about the duha. Can you say duha?
Duha.
Yeah. So there are 2 things we're talking about. Tell me what they are again without me saying it first.
Ash-Shams, the sun, and Duha, the what the sun produces, the light that bounces off the clouds that go through.
Beautiful. We'll call it the surrounding light. Or for simple terms, we'll just say daylight. By the sun and by its daylight. All right? Mm-hmm. Now remember, this is the point all of the way through today's lesson, that the Quran compares the soul to the sun. And even the Latin word for the sun is soul. It's just spelled differently. How was the first soul spelled?
Soul.
And how is the Latin word soul spelled?
Sol.
Okay, very good. Now look at these two pictures. Now I'm going to get a little bit sophisticated on you only because I know you're quite advanced for your 11 years on planet Earth. You're quite advanced. So I think you'll be able to pick up on this. So to the right, we have a picture from space of the sun and all of its gases and whatever else the sun contains. And then on the right, remember now we're comparing the sun to the human soul. And this is just a brief kind of description of what kinds of things are going on in the soul. All right. And the soul is something that was given to every human being as a property. This is what Allah has trusted us with. He's given us a soul and he's trusted us with our soul. And it doesn't matter how young you are or how old you grow to be, you still have a soul that you're responsible for. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. And Allah tells us that directly in the Quran. He says that your own souls obligate you. So we're not just obligated by what our mothers tell us to do or what our dad tells us to do or what the government tells us to do and that kind of thing. You know, what a street light tells us to do, green, walk, red, stop. We're obligated to do those things too. But the greatest thing that Allah put in us that obligates us is our human soul. In the Quran, that soul is called the nafs, but we're not going to deal with that today, but I want you to say it anyway. It's N-A-F-S, nafs.
N-A-F-S, nafs.
Beautiful. Excellent. All right, so you see the sun here, and I want you to always reflect back to what Allah said in the Quran here. By the sun, and he puts here his, but he should just say its when he translates this. Okay? By the sun and his glorious splendor should be changed to by the sun and its glorious splendor. So try to remember that as a little mental note, okay? That the sun in this verse is not being described as masculine. His obviously is masculine, but this ending in Arabic, although that's a little bit advanced for what you're learning right now, but this word, this ending, ha, is feminine. It's not masculine. So it should have been translated, if he were going to give it a gender, by the sun and her glorious splendor. Now, that's something we're not going to get into in this class. It's beyond your pay grade. Okay, we'll get into that at some other point. I'll get into that in my main class. But I wanted you to know that the sun is being described as her. But I'll give you one hint into why, because everywhere else the sun is described as him. It's described as a masculine thing. Even in mythologies, the sun is described as a masculine thing and the moon is described as a feminine thing. But here, both the sun and the moon are described in this surah as feminine. And I'm going to tell you why real quick. You'll be able to handle this part of it. It's because, as we said earlier, the sun is being compared to the human soul, nafs. And in the Quran, the nafs is feminine. Can you repeat back to me what I just said?
So the nafs, or the human soul, is feminine. And, the human soul represents the sun, so it's probably feminine too.
Well, that's why they're describing the sun here as feminine, because it's not really talking about the sun in the sky, which is normally masculine. It's talking about the sun of your soul, and your soul in the Quran is called feminine. Nafsin wahida. Wahida. See? And here, waduha. See, that ha is feminine. Don't worry about understanding all of that now. As we continue on and you get deeper and deeper into the explanations in the Quran, that'll come to you with no problem. All right? Now, Let's go back to these two diagrams. On the left, the sun. On the right, tell me what you see written in those circles.
Body, soul, emotion, thoughts, will, spirit, consciousness, subconsciousness.
Excellent. So all of those are very important ingredients that go into the making of and the preserving of your human soul. So we have the body, which we look at in the mirror every morning, right? Then you have something inside of you that's not physical, like the body is physical. So read those things off to me again.
Body, soul, emotion, thoughts, will,
Very good.
spirit,
Okay.
conscious.
Well, let's stop. Let's stop before we get to spirit and consciousness and subconsciousness. I want you to pay very close attention, actually closer attention to how this is divided up into these circles and into these dotted lines and into this middle section. I want you to notice and understand what the person who drew this is actually saying. Right? The body is underlined here, right? So this rim, the rim,
The whole
that's
body.
that's the whole body. That's right. Whatever your body does, this is taking care of it right here. But beneath the body, or inside, we'll say inside of the body, is the soul. And the soul consists of three major things. What are they again? And go slow.
Emotions.
What are emotions?
Emotions are they're it's like it's like water.
Oh, okay. Explain.
Emotions are like water because they represent water because they can stir up, and when they stir up, there's like, so let's say like your dad died or something, your emotions are not happy, so they the water becomes, it just starts stirring up. It starts going around and around and around and around. And, you get sad. And then in your mind, you know, you're sad because, your dad took care of you. He helped you, showed you how to do this. He helped you walk and that kind of stuff. So your emotions stir up, and sometimes you become so, you get so sad. You you isolate yourself, and then when that happens, you freeze up, and like the water
Wow.
cools down, and then just freezes.
You don't realize,
Nothing.
are you realizing what you're saying? Are you using the word freeze up on purpose when you talk about the word isolate? Or did you do that just by mistake or by accident? You hear what you're saying? Give me that word isolate again, slow.
Isolate.
Yeah. So are you using the word isolate, like ICE, olate?
I mean, yeah,
And that's your emotions freezing up?
yeah.
That's a great comparison. I think Allah sent you that. That's a great comparison. Yeah, when people isolate themselves, they can become very cold. They don't want to talk to anybody. You go to them to try to cheer them up. They say, I don't know. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to talk to anybody. So they're like ice almost. They become almost like ice, right? They just want to be to themselves. They say, maybe I'll be ready for a conversation later. Right now, I'm thinking about my dad's passing. And so it's not cold, like insensitive, but it's just,
Still,
yeah, I don't want to deal with that right now. But eventually, if they're going to get back to their regular emotions, then their feelings have to start moving again in other directions. It can't just stay stagnant, because if it stays stagnant, what's going to happen when dirty things come in the environment?
just gonna get on it. It's
Yeah,
gonna. that it's gonna get toxic and it's gonna get disgusting, and
Mm.
the person will start being a bad person, and he'll do things he's not supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. So the water has to move because if anything toxic or anything poisonous or any bad chemicals or anything get in the water from the air or from people throwing stuff in the water, if the water's not moving, then that stuff is going to stay right there and build up and become very, very toxic. So you're right. And that's how emotions are. So I'm glad you were able to make that connection. So the soul is also in control of your emotions. That's not all the soul is. Some people say, oh, the soul is my emotions. Yeah, no, your soul contains your emotions, but it contains other important things also. So you see the word motion in emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because your emotions are meant to keep moving. That's how Allah created them. Don't stay stuck. Your emotions, if they become stuck, then your feelings become stagnant. And that's when all of those other things start becoming attracted to your water. All right. So never let your emotions become stagnant or stuck in one place where you can't think about anything else except the bad stuff or even if you can't think of anything else about the good times. I mean, you can't just go around the rest of your life just thinking about the good times, because other times are waiting for you to experience those times. And you're still stuck on when you went to Palisades Amusement Park last year, but you're not focusing on, going to great adventures this year. See, you have to be able to take those emotions and allow them to keep moving and there's going to be some ups and downs. That's what waves are, right? Ups and downs, ups and downs. But it's those ups and downs that will eventually get you to where you're going, just like the ship that's riding the waves. It's doing that in order to get you to where you need to be. So, what do you have beneath the word emotions?
You got E, and then you got motions.
Yeah, E just means to go out. I think we spoke about that before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what word is beneath emotions? Underneath it, I should say.
Thoughts.
Yeah. Tell me what thoughts are. Describe a thought.
Thought. Like right now, I'm thinking. I'm thinking about what we're learning right now. Like thinking about words, what I'm putting together. Like when you have a thought, it's like something pops in your head, and it's like, what if you did this? What if you, I don't know, if you had a thought, like it's not outwards, it's still in you. It just
Yeah.
happened out
Good.
of you. It doesn't go outward yet. It's still you're still thinking about it. It's like, oh, I wanna do this later. I want to go to that amusement park and eat that famous popcorn that everybody likes.
Mm-hmm. I tasted it when you said it. I know what you mean. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Is an opinion a thought?
Yes,
Good.
it has to start in your head. I mean, it can't start anywhere else other than in your soul,
Are you sure about that?
in your spirit.
Well, let's back up the train a little bit and go back to the word you were just discussing before you went to the word thoughts. What word was that?
Emotion.
Yeah, stop there. Now remember, we're talking about the water cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said that emotions are like water, right? Therefore, the logical conclusion to this is that if emotions are like water, there's something that develops out of the water, especially when the sun is shining on it, that turns the water into,
Mist.
yeah. And it's the mist that we're calling the evaporation. You see how that cycle goes? So let me go back up for a minute to the first picture of the water cycle. so we can be clear on what we're talking about. So here's the water down here. Let's call that your emotions. Then the water begins to evaporate. That's the first stage. So when it begins to evaporate, what are these squiggly lines over here doing? What is that telling us with the arrow on top?
It's evaporating. It's going up.
Yes. And after it gets up to a certain height, what does it then do? What's this word here?
Condensation.
That's right. And when it condenses, what's formed up here in the sky that you're looking at?
Clouds.
Very good. Now let's go back down here. I love this. Okay, so emotions are like water.
Mm-hmm.
And when the water gets impacted by the heat of the sun, then the water begins to evaporate. And when it gets to a certain height, it begins to condense, right? It becomes condensation in the form of clouds. And I want you to now think about the clouds as your thoughts. So it went from the water on the ground, the lakes, the oceans, the streams, the ponds, the rivers. When the sun, and remember, what did we say the sun is being compared to in this lesson?
Oh.
Exactly. See? So when this soul begins to shine down and heat up the emotions, then the emotions begin to evaporate until it reaches a level where it can't go any further up, and it has to condense into clouds, and those clouds become your thoughts. But it didn't begin with the thoughts. It began with the feelings, the emotions. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that becomes a thought, Mahdi, begins as a feeling. Repeat that to me.
Everything that begins as a thought.
No, no, no. Not begins as a thought. Everything that becomes.
Everything that becomes a thought must begin as an emotion.
Okay. Now we're going to just be technically correct. It doesn't even begin as an emotion. It begins as a feeling. What's the difference between a feeling and an emotion?
Emotions are outward, feelings are inward, like in here.
Beautiful answer. You're getting better and better, young man. You're sharp. You're sharp. That's right. So feelings are inside and nobody knows what's going on but you. Okay? You might see something, taste something, hear something, smell something. What's the last of the five senses?
Taste, touch.
Name them. 1, 2.
1, 2. Taste, touch, hearing, smelling. Taste.
Look at me. Look at me.
Oh, sight.
All right, now I'm going to show you the easy way to remember your five senses at all times. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
There's only one place on your body where all five senses are located. Where is it?
Your face.
Exactly. So just think about your face when you start talking about the five senses. Point to them as you say them so I can see which five you're pointing to.
Hearing, tasting, seeing, um, smelling, and touching.
That's right. There you go. Beautiful. All right. So that's your body, right?
Yep.
Okay. So whatever begins to impact your body through your five senses is going to eventually affect your soul. You got it? Sometimes people will ask you, what's bothering your soul? It's going to be something you either saw, heard, tasted, smelled, or touched. It's going to be something that came from outside in the environment that caused certain feelings in you. Sadness or even gladness. It's all feelings. All of it is feelings. Hold on. Someone trying to get into our class who's not allowed right now. Okay. All right, so you see how this goes? Feelings are first. And as you said, when you express those feelings, that's when feelings become emotions. Then emotions become thoughts. Because when you feel something and then you speak on what you're feeling, then you're going to create certain thoughts as you say what it is you're feeling. I feel bad. Why do you feel bad? Oh, because, and then you begin to explain it as thoughts. Here's what I was thinking about those feelings. So you emote those feelings. That's where they get the word emotion. Emote, send them out, make them move, put them in motion, emotion. All right. Okay. So the emotions are what part of the environment? Well, let me back up. Where the feelings registering now? What is this?
Body.
In the body. Okay. Then once the body's five senses become activated or sensitized, do those different five ways of things of you learning things, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, whatever, you know what it is. Then it begins to impact you inside. And the first impact is upon your feelings. So the soul begins with how you feel. Now, when you start telling people how you feel, then it becomes what?
Emotion.
That's right. You're going to either tell somebody how you feel or you're going to show somebody how you feel. Those are the only two ways that we have to express our feelings. We have to say something. I like what you did. I feel good about when I'm in your company. Or I really don't like what you did. I don't think that was very cool. And in fact, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. You're bad for my reputation. See, so you're expressing your feelings through your words and then sometimes through your actions where you just don't hang out with that person in the schoolyard anymore. At lunchtime, you go sit next to somebody else, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what are the two ways again of expressing your feelings?
Showing or telling.
Exactly. Very
Show
good. Go ahead.
show and tell.
No, that's nice. Yeah, show and or tell, right? In this case. All right. So then those emotions, which were water, become condensed and they begin to form clouds in your mind. They're like clouds. Thoughts are like clouds. Sometimes the clouds can become very, very thick, right? And then sometimes the clouds can be very, very light. Like sometimes we just have light thoughts and nothing deep. Or sometimes we're thinking about very deep things. Wow, that lesson that instructor Bilal gave me last week, I can't get it out of my head. It's so deep. I have to keep thinking about it. That's when the clouds are becoming thicker and thicker, right? And then sometimes you'll think about those thoughts so much because you're trying to figure out how to explain it to people. Like, man, I know it was deep, but I can't give it the right words yet. And then you keep thinking about it, and more clouds form in your head, thoughts that move around just like the clouds. And then what can happen to the cloud to make rain come down from the clouds? What kind of thing can happen in the
Will.
clouds? Huh? To make it rain, what happens? I mean, this doesn't have to happen, but it happens very often. And then after that happens, a lot of rain comes. What happens in the clouds or to the clouds?
They get they get water, and water, they get too heavy for the
That's right.
cloud to hold anymore. So they have to release it. And then that's when it starts raining, and it's like the rain comes down,
Yeah.
lets and that's like will.
Oh, you're getting there. You're getting there. But let me tell you what I was thinking. Although this doesn't have to happen for it to rain, but I'm going to give you a sound and I'm going to see if you can associate it with something that I'm thinking about.
What?
Mm. I can't do a good thunderbolt. Oh, lightning. I can't do lightning and thunder very well, but that's supposed to be thunder. Okay. So sometimes all these thoughts will be in your head, and then the thunder is just like an idea, like eureka, I got it. I got it. Right? That's
Mm-hmm.
like a lightning bolt. Okay. It's just like a lightning bolt. Hold on one moment. Folks are still trying to get into our class. And they're not allowed. They think I'm having class tonight for some reason. Let's get rid of them. Okay. All right. So the lightning can happen or not, but like you said, the clouds get too heavy. And the same thing happens for our thoughts. Our thoughts can become too heavy. And then we have to share those thoughts with people, especially if we can't handle it. If it's too heavy for us, you know, you don't know what to do about this bully in school. First, you keep it to yourself as a feeling. I just feel bad because I don't like Johnny. When Johnny's always bothering me every morning when I get to school, Johnny's over there, you know, messing with me. He's a big guy, he's a bully guy. And then you say something to somebody. You tell your teacher, or when you get home, you tell your parent, and you say, Johnny's been messing with me. So you're emoting. That's your emotions. First, it was a feeling. I feel bad when I go to school in the morning. You don't tell anybody, it's just you. But then you decide to tell somebody, and then your mom might say, well, here's what you do about that. So that's still you letting out your emotions, letting people know your emotions, right? Then they cause thoughts. Okay, now the thought is when I go to school tomorrow, I'm going to stay way away from Johnny. But then Johnny begins to follow you around. You know, you move your chair here, Johnny moves his chair there. You go sit on the other side of the lunchroom. Johnny comes sitting on the other side of the lunchroom, picking at you, you know, tapping you in the back of the neck and all that stuff Johnny likes to do. So the thoughts become too much. Like, I don't know what to do. Now you have to express those thoughts to somebody. Sometimes people just lose it and they just start fighting Johnny, right? It's I can't take it anymore. So that's almost like a lightning strike. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So your thoughts get too heavy, and then you have to rain all of that burden back down. And a lot of times, even after you cry, I know this is true for me. If you get a good cry, if something bad happened or something sad happened, or even if something happy happens, you can still cry about it, right? You ever cry over something happy? Has that happened to you yet? Not yet. But you know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, the tears of joy and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And guess what? After you cry tears of joy, you usually feel very good. Just like after it rains outside, you ever go outside right after it rains and go like this? You smell the air?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great smell, especially out there where you are in the farm. That's called ozone. You heard of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is about to rain right now.
Is it? You see how Allah teaches us? He gave you a direct example, right? So that's called ozone. And it's good for your breathing. It's good for your lungs. Okay. So then all of the rain comes back down. And then things begin to grow when the rain comes back down. And that's all the water cycle that we're talking about. So the will, how did you describe the will again?
Precipitation.
Yeah, exactly. So give me all of those stages again and connect them appropriately again. Starting with
So, like emotions, that's what, okay.
starting with the body.
Okay, with the body. Um, Something you see or touch or something like with your senses, if you see, touch, taste, hear, or something like that. You
What do
know,
you mean
your
something like that? I gave you where to go to find your five senses, so you don't have to be saying in something like that. So tell me what all five senses are.
five senses: taste,
One,
hearing,
two,
sight,
three.
um, touching, and smelling.
There you go. Very good. Okay.
And
Interesting.
those,
Mm-hmm.
and your senses, Then your senses come into your head, and then they become thought, or they become, feelings. And then they, you know, they move around, and at some point, you're like, they become emotions, and you start to emote it, like, like you you show or tell it something, yeah, like that.
Mhm.
when when that happens, your body or your thoughts become your emotions. They become they come out, and they show or tell them. And and when, like, a bully comes up to you, and he really starts to dig into you and like punch you and stuff like that, that's the point where precipitation happens, will, and then thunder strikes, and you are, running around, like running away and telling teachers, and like pushing him back, like, stay away. And then you move to table, staying away from him.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a moral resolution. Morals are water too, like emotions. So the final conclusion to the issue or the problem that a person is having is going to be when they make a moral decision. Now, what is a moral decision?
A decision that's either right or wrong.
Give me an example.
Like, let's say you're out in the field, and one of your family members, let's say your brother or something like that, is, cutting the grass or mowing the field or something like that. And he's doing that, and now he's tired, and he's tired and needs to take a break. Either you could go help him, or you could, just go back inside and play with something and leave him be. Don't help him at all. Or you could go help him, and get the work done faster, and then you can have more, free time.
Excellent. Now, I want you to give me that same scenario, which is perfect, but I want you to attach every part of what you said to these words that you're using: soul, emotions, thoughts, will, water, feelings, emotions, thoughts, will. I want you to give me the same story you gave me, but stop to insert those words where they belong. Okay, you see your brother mowing the
Yeah,
lawn.
your brother, which is one of your senses of the body,
Go ahead.
which become a feeling in your body,
Yeah.
and that, it becomes a thought, like condensing in your head, and you look at him, and your moral
Wait a
decisions.
minute. What is the thought?
Thought is,
What is it when you see your brother cutting the grass and you see he's having a hard time and he wants to go out and play also? Then what's the
you
thoughts that form in your head? What are the thoughts that form?
you see him, you see him, and you the thoughts that form up in your head is that you see him doing work, and and one of your emotions is like, I don't want to do work. And you get this emotion, like, yeah, I don't know what it's called, but and you get this emotion, but or feeling, and that feeling. Yep, it's raining right now.
All
Yes,
right. And how,
and that feeling feeling becomes an emotion, and it's like you, either you could help him or you could not help him, and that's when the moral or something. How do I say it?
How does it lead to thoughts? You got the emotion part, you got the feeling part from the body, you got the emotion part,
And
right?
then your emotions become your will. Then your will starts precipitating.
All
Your
right, but wait a
will.
minute. Now you skipped over thoughts. I want to get those thoughts so that I can see it when you say it. So you have the emotions. Your brother's having a hard time. He wants to go out and play. I want to go out and play, right? So now, what kind of thoughts follow those emotions?
Your thoughts are like, so he's mowing the lawn. I could go help him, or I could go back inside and play on my own when I'm not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts condensing, it comes up, and your emotions is I don't want to do work right now, but if I get the work done faster, I can have more free time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then your emotions and stuff like that becomes the will, and it's the will starts stirring up, and the will, when the will gets hard enough, or not hard enough, heavy enough,
yeah,
which is the raindrops, they start coming down, and when the water touches the ground, it's like when you walking up towards him and say, "Go take a break. I'm gonna help you." Like each step, bop, 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 and the rain is coming down,
yeah.
and when you finally reach him, thunder comes, boom, and now
That's great.
you're helping him do the work.
And what happens in the land when the land hasn't had water in a while and the land begins to receive water?
It
What?
starts, it's growing. It starts, taking up the water. It starts soaking
That's
it
right.
up.
New life. So that might help you breathe new life into your brother and your relationship with him, right? Like, let's say your brother might have been mad at you for something you did 500, 300, 200 years ago, right? And now all of a sudden you choose to help him. And that's a moral thing that you're doing based on good feelings. Then your brother might say to himself, now he's got feelings, right? And then he's going to emote his feelings. Wow, I didn't know you'd ever come out here and help me like that. Right. So he's got thoughts now. Oh, my brother's not as bad as I thought he was. I thought he was selfish. I thought he'd never come out and help me. So now his clouds begin to form and he gets thoughts, better thoughts about you. And then they become too heavy. And now he's got to rain his down by either helping you do something later on or helping somebody else. Because rain doesn't just fall in one place. His rain, his help, his charity, his moral thinking and decisions might go to help your mom or, your uncle or the stranger, you know, he might see a stranger that he can help. So it's all the water cycle inside of you. That's what I want you to understand. Not just the water cycle as Allah created it out here. Allah created that exact same water cycle, but inside of us, invisibly, operating as our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts and our charity and our will. And, I'm going to do this. That's what the will says. By golly, I'm going to do this for him. That's what you say about your brother. I'm going to do this for him. That's your will talking. And that's when the water begins to fall. And that's when new life begins to grow. Anything else you want to say about this scenario? Or maybe give me a different scenario using the same body, soul, emotions, thoughts, will. Can you give me a different scene if you were shooting a movie?
Mm. Okay, let's say you and your uncle are climbing a tree, and you could either help him by this is a moral decision. You could help him by giving him a leg up or something like that, help him get onto the first branch and move up. Or you could just sit there and wait for him to go up and, just sit there and wait, not help him. And these thoughts or body or emotions, you see your uncle is trying to climb up the tree. These, these thoughts or not with one of your senses, with your sight, you see him, doing something that you could help with. That's one of your thoughts. Your thoughts are collecting, conjuring, and
Nice. Keep going.
and when they start collecting up, and your thoughts condense and condense, and then you look at him, and you could help him and make this go faster. So one of your emotions is like, okay, I could help him, and this could get a lot done faster, and I could be happier, and we could see the top of the tree and be so happy. So these thoughts, these feelings become emotions, and these emotions, they get heavy, and you start showing them, and you walk up, which is becoming the will. The will is the rain, will is the precipitation,
There
and
you
when
go. That's what I was going to ask you about. All right.
the will or the thoughts and emotions start becoming heavier, and when the raindrops fall and you start helping him, and you go down and you get his foot, and there's more rain falls, and then lightning strike, and then you're helping him get up, and he's up the tree, and he helps, and he grabs your arm, and you get up, and oh yeah.
And you've done a moral thing, right?
Yeah.
You're back to the water again. I'm going to go back up to the diagram, and I want you to explain those same words using the diagram. This diagram right here, using these four things, give me the words that we were just discussing and relate them to each one of these stages right here.
So evaporation, it's your thoughts, or not, your body seeing.
Well, let's start here just so that you get the right start. First, we're starting with the water, even before the evaporation, right?
It's just normal water. The
Yeah.
water is
So
there,
what
and
happens? What happens if you have a still bowl of water that's not moving in a bowl? What happens if you just touch it?
moves energy.
That's right. It ripples. So consider the water to be your feelings. Okay? Consider the water to be your feelings. So what happens is that when your feelings are touched, that's when the water begins to ripple and move. And when the sun, remember the soul, we're talking about the soul when we talk about the sun, when the sun hits that water, that's when the water begins to evaporate. Now, what is evaporation on that chart that we looked at below?
Um, the body seeing the thing, and it's collecting, and it's evaporating, and it's
Okay, give me what we already said now that feelings are the water itself. Okay,
mhm.
the water itself.
So
So
then
what's the next step up from the water? From the
evaporate.
feelings? Yeah. So what is the evaporation? What word?
Um, feelings,
The first word under the soul.
emotion,
Yeah.
emotion,
Yeah. That's
emotions come
that's
up,
right.
and the thoughts come in, and
The thoughts of which word?
condensation. They start
Exactly.
condensing. They start coming together with all the emotions, and they
And then it comes this way. And what is this precipitation? What part of those? Which word from down there?
will
That's right. And then the will falls back down where?
collection,
That's
collect.
right. And this is where Your moral decisions are made. And this is where things begin to grow again. Now, I want you to explain it to me in the order that I just gave it to you with no mistakes. Go for it.
Okay, so the water represents your emotions and your feelings.
No, no, I don't want to hear emotions and feelings. I want you to give them to me in the order that you just learned them.
Okay, so the water is your feelings.
Yes.
And the vibration is your emotions.
Yes.
And the condensation is your thoughts.
Yes.
Thoughts become will. The will comes down to collection, which is.
Wait a minute. You didn't give me the right word for it.
Precipitation.
Yes.
Precipitation is will. Precipitation comes down to collection, which is moral decisions. The moral decisions,
Yeah. My man. Now, you see this strange beam of light over here?
Mm-hmm.
What is that called?
A rainbow.
Okay. Do you notice how this rainbow is over here in the section of precipitation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You said that will is represented by precipitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And precipitation is when you're giving back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if they put this rainbow and they're telling you that it's only after the clouds begin to give back that charity that the rainbow appears, tell me in your mind, your own opinion of what the rainbow represents in you.
Is it like what happens like after the? Is it like when you're helping your uncle and your uncle comes up and he says thank you, and then he gives his hand and helps you.
Yeah.
It's like it's like giving is getting.
Exactly. And what you'll notice is that you have now influenced your uncle by helping him, or your cousin or your mom. When you give that help and that support, that's called influencing, right? That's how you make friends, by influencing people. By you doing things good, you influence other people to do good for other people. You influence them to do something good for you in return, although that's not necessarily what you're looking for. You're just trying to do something good, not because you want somebody to do something good for you, right? We do good for goodness sake. But that rainbow are the influences that you create to help that person do good, to help that person be a better person. There's also influences in that are helping you be a better person, because you feel better, just like you feel better after you cry or after you work out and sweat. All of that is water, right?
It's like the aftermath.
Oh, that's a great word. I'm going to use that word. Keep that word in your vocabulary. The aftermath. The rainbow is the aftermath. I like that. And math is where you count stuff up, right? So this is after you've counted up evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Now you're ready for the collection, because you didn't added all this stuff up. Now you're ready to collect, right? It's like working hard all week, and now you go to work on Friday and you're ready for your paycheck, the collection, right? So that's beautiful. And this is the cycle that keeps us human. When we break this cycle, we are actually diminishing our human self. What does diminish mean?
Break down, destroy.
Yes, make less and less and less. So if we want to be real, true humans, then we have to do all of these things that Allah created out there. We have to apply that same process, but in here. In the Quran, and we'll end on this note, Allah says that He put instructions in the skies. We're talking about these instructions now. And He said He also put instructions in the earth. And then He says, in you, meaning in us as humans, He put similar signs or similar instructions. But then Allah says that most people don't pay these instructions any mind. See? And I would say behind that, that because we're not paying Allah's instructions, meaning how he teaches us, we're not paying that any mind. That's the reason why a lot of people are not acting like real humans. They're violent. They rob old people. They cuss at their parents. You know, they're not acting like true humans should be acting. So they have to have a different kind of respect for the fitrah. They have to be taught the fitrah. They have to be taught the instructions. Babies know the instructions. That's why they come here smiling. They come here crying, but then they start smiling. And as long as you're nice to the baby more than likely is going to be nice to you because that's the baby's fitrah. But when the baby starts learning things that we never should have taught the baby or the child, the toddler or the teenager, whatever, you know, people are learning things all of the time because of the body and its five senses taking stuff in all of the time. So we have to make sure that we continue to take in good information. Give me an idea of taking in good information before we close.
This.
Explain.
I'm taking good information by knowing how to read signs like condensation, evaporation, collection, precipitation, and how they represent, or how the sun represents the soul and water represents emotion. Water plus movement equal energy. The water cycle.
Wow. I don't know if I should ask you to add anything to that. That was a profound statement. I like the way this class went. So I'm going to ask you just to give personal greetings. I didn't catch his name, I don't think, but there's a new learner. Her name is Ifra Muhammad. And she's the one who has a couple of children, but one of them who's about your age, he was the one who I told you I would say, hey, Mahdi, to, because he's watching all of your videos. So you want to say anything special to him and to his family?
Thank you for the support and precipitate good.
Okay. Now you're causing me to give him a homework assignment. Now I'm going to ask him what is that precipitation after he watches this video. I hope he's taking notes or will take notes. So thank you, my friend. And I'll see you again, inshallah. I'll see you again this time next week, next Wednesday. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Be well. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.